Hey folks, your OS Reviews. You're watching our video first look and a quick review of the VeryFit 2.0. This is a smart fitness tracker with an OLED screen and a heart rate monitor that sells for under $35 on Amazon, which is pretty inexpensive. VeryFit is a low-cost manufacturer we've seen a few times already in terms of pretty generic fitness trackers, but they perform well enough for the first-time user, and they have a lot of features that you would want even in a more expensive option. So in terms of features, we have that heart rate detection, there's a pedometer, sleep monitoring, in terms of a light versus deep sleep. You can use it to take images with your phone, so there's a selfie function, gives you notifications of messages and missed calls, and there's also a gesture that you can use to rotate your wrist to turn the device on to take a quick look at the time and date information. Here's some additional specs. Battery life will last you for about, I would say 5 to 6 days, depending on how much you use it before you need to recharge it again. So it's pretty good considering that it's not a full-blown smartwatch, but it just uses a very energy efficient OLED or organic LED display. So in here we have access to the smartwatch itself. We'll take a closer look at the design in a second. Otherwise, there is a smart guide that tells you to install the VeryFit app, which is the standard app that we've seen a few times already. This is using magnetic prongs for charging, which is nice, but it is a proprietary charging cable, so make sure you don't lose it. And it will fully charge up in under 2 hours. Instructions are printed in both Chinese and English, and there's also QR codes that you can scan in case that you don't have the application and you need to find it in the iOS or the Android Play Store. So in here we have access to the aforementioned charging cradle, which uses 2 contact pens, and it needs to be snapped into place for the charging to begin. This is a fully waterproof and sweatproof watch, which is pretty nice. So you can take it maybe to the beach or take it for a dive, and it should still survive. Compared to the regular version of the VeryFit tracker, which we saw a few weeks ago, this is slightly bulkier. It has the same overall ergonomics, which is slightly curved. It looks fairly high-end, and it looks much more expensive than it is, but you can see that because of the heart rate sensor, it does add a little bit of a bump or a bulk on the very back. And I'm not a huge fan of the way that it really reflects light and attracts fingerprints and smudges, but overall, again, it does look more expensive than it really is. The screen is also a bit smaller than you'd expect. There's like a capacitive key that you can tap on to cycle through the various menus. The band itself is fairly comfortable, it's large, it's one size fit all for both men and women. Here's the VeryFit 2.0 app. It's pretty simple to use. You have a few tabs on the bottom that you can navigate around. The user profile is what you'll set up upon the first installation of the app. You can add a profile picture. You can change your target settings, such as 10,000 steps, 100,000 steps, something like that as your daily goal. And you can check out your information, such as your weight, gender, stride length, height, those things that you can set up, and also settings in terms of the firmware. The first time that you take this out of the box, it's going to automatically push a firmware over to the watch. So it's going to ask you to connect using Bluetooth, and then you have to wait a few seconds for it to update. But otherwise, it works pretty well. Other Google Fit apps can also be integrated through VeryFit. So the device itself, we can see that it's been connected here. It tells me I'm on the firmware version 35. Battery remaining is 94%. I can also turn off things like call alerts, so the watch itself will vibrate whenever I get a new call or text message. Sedentary alert, if I've been sitting for 30 minutes, it's going to vibrate and tell me to get up and move. Alarm alert for other alarms. I want to wake up in the morning, something that's going to vibrate and give me that kinesthetic reminder. SMS alert, same thing with wrist sense. So that's the gesture of twisting your wrist to turn on the watch. And there's also find your phone, so you can tap on the watch to locate your phone. It's going to vibrate. Otherwise, another feature on here is the camera. It's basically using the device as a selfie remote. So it's pretty cool, and you can see that I'm in the camera mode automatically now. It's going to wait a few seconds, and essentially what I'm able to do is use the shutter key to tap on the watch once, and that's going to take an image on my phone. So you can see that there, and access a selfie remote, and it works pretty well if you want to get a group shot and you just put your phone somewhere off, maybe on a bookshelf, and then everyone comes together in front of the camera, and then you just use this to take an image. So let's exit out of that. And finally, we have just the typical graph of your exercise. So it's going to tell you your week, month, and year as far as how much steps you've reached for that day. And then it's going to tell you your sleep patterns as well in terms of deep versus light sleep. This function is turned on automatically when you go to bed. It just senses it depending on how much you're moving around to detect your sleep patterns. Fairly accurate stuff. And then finally on the home screen, it just gives you a simplified view of the last 24 hours as far as as what you've been doing. And finally, how many calories you've burned in addition to your heart rate, which it gives you a continuous reading when you are in that particular program. It takes a few seconds, I would say about 20 seconds to get a complete reading with the heart rate. So let's take a quick look at the menu of the watch next. You can see it's fairly attractive as aforementioned. I can tap on it once using the key here to turn it on, and we have access to the time and date information in addition to the battery status. The first time that you sync it with your phone, it's going to update the time automatically, so you don't have to set it up by yourself. So heart rate, when it is getting a reading, you can see that the lights are starting to flash. That's how you know it's in that mode. Number of steps you've taken, number of distance, and there's also calories burned, and finally syncs back up to the main menu. So it's pretty simple and easy to get used to. I can also tap on the key here to cycle through the same things if you don't want to use the capacitive key on the very center here. When it comes to general tracking, it is fairly accurate. Steps aren't accidentally triggered, so even if I shake this around and kind of vigorously try to fake a movement, it doesn't seem to record it. You have to actually get up and move. So the sensor here is pretty accurate. The heart rate monitoring is also good enough, although of course it's not going to be as great as more medical grade sensors. So for instance, sometimes I can just maybe put my finger underneath and it will still get a reading, which might be a little bit off. So it does take a little bit longer, and it works, but it's not the highlight here. One feature that is missing is blood pressure measurements, and that's a feature that some competitors are bringing out now that uses that sensor in conjunction with the heart rate monitoring. So that's a feature that's lacking on this specific model. But otherwise, all the features that it advertises does work pretty well. One complaint I do have is the band's strap here. So this is the part, the metal that goes into the loops and that keeps everything clamped shut. It's very tight and hard to properly pop in just because the arms here are extremely short. You kind of make it out here in the camera, but it's hard to push through the thickness of the band itself, and as a result it's a very stiff. So the first time you set it up, you have to apply a bit of extra pressure to make sure everything goes in properly. Alright, so that's been the VeryFit 2.0 Smart Band Smart Fitness Tracker device. It's a budget fitness tracker that combines a lot of features that you would find in more expensive options, such as the continuous heart rate measurement. It offers a very simple UI that's easy to use and understand, but lacks more complex features such as sharing your information and setting up more long-term goals, as well as more intelligent ways, I guess, to track your health that you'll find on more brand name solutions. However, what it does very well. Battery life is excellent. The screen could be a little larger, but it remains fairly visible outdoors because it uses OLED technology. And although it's comfortable, I found the band to be a little stiff, but you get used to it once you try it out. Fairly compact and easy to use at a low price range. You can check out more details about this in our official written review, but for now, this has been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. This has been the VeryFit 2.0 Smart Fitness Tracker.